started yet, because normally someone just starts the show randomly and that's how we know it's time to begin.
I actually hit start recording literally right before you just said that.
All right, so I make the cough noise that tells everybody it's beginning, and that's when I do the transition, and then we do the intro, and then we start telling stories. Welcome back, PSVG OT family. I'm happy to say that we're back for some OT goodness. We've missed you so much. We hope you're staying safe and doing well. I know this is our first OT show in a long time. That's what Shai and everyone else has been telling us. We love y'all, and thank you for just being so supportive. So join with me today is the Michael Jordan to my Bill Cartwright, Dev A. Tyus. How are you, my dude?
I am doing well, living that lovely, sunny Southern California life. Just, enjoying my lockdown, playing video games, trying not to let the kids ruin everything because they are just losing their minds. But other than that, I'm doing well. I'm blessed to still have a job. My wife is still working, so everything is going well.
Amen. We also were lucky enough to have the boss man, Don, in the building. Big Donnie Reese. How are you, sir?
Greetings, Koopalings. Hey, Mo. How are you?
I'm always good. What is a Koopaling? I've wondered that for years.
It's Bowser's kids, the Koopa kids, Koopalings.
Oh. How do you not know that?
Do I look like I know Nintendo? I play
know enough. You have a Nintendo.
I play MLB The Show. I play hockey, and I play FIFA. Those are my games, my guy. Oh, wait, and Call of Duty. Man, I'm getting really good at Warzone. I'm just saying that right now. Like, I could probably carry someone to a top 5 finish with them doing nothing. I'm just throwing that
Humble brag.
Every once in a while, you have to. Right? Someone's got to say something nice. Now, we also were so lucky, so blessed to be joined by none other than Ryan frickin' McCaffrey, the #1 Xbox podcaster in the universe.
That's true.
That's all galaxies.
It's my legal middle name, by the way.
There it is.
How'd you see my birth certificate? You do your research on this show.
No one's ever said that about us. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Oh, man. Now, you guys know we are a storytelling podcast. And actually, the best part about this is the reason our show started as a little spinoff from PSVG proper was because of a moment that I experienced listening to Ryan's podcast, the Maggie the Boxer episode, where he talks about Maggie's last day. Ryan, it destroyed me. Like, as a listener, like, I know you were going through some tremendous things, but like that show, I think I've cried openly 3 times. And I'm not saying that, I'm just 3 times. When the Bears lost the 2006 Super Bowl, I was devastated. I was like, why are we playing Rex Grossman? Please take him out of the game. I'm begging you. He's awful. Didn't happen. The first month of being married, I just realized like how lucky I was. Like, my wife and I have been together 13 years now, and she is like my rock. She makes me a better human being. I love her to pieces. Like, I really was sitting there just overwhelmed with thankfulness. And then your show, like that show, like, I ran and hugged my dog Daisy and like held her, and she was like 8 at the time, like in my arms, like cradling her. She's a big old dog. And my wife goes, I was like, what's wrong? Nothing. It's fine. Everything's okay. I just love Daisy so much. It was tremendous. I just want to say thank you, because after that show and hearing Jared talk about Pockets Full of Soup and the story they were telling, I went to Boss Man Don and said, can I tell stories? Like, I'm not good at the video game journalism or any of that stuff. Like, that's not my wheelhouse, but I would just love to talk stories. So thank you so much, man, for being so transparent with your community. We love you to pieces. So I just want to make sure I told you that.
You're very kind. Yeah, it's that was, I mean, it's a thing where, well, I could try to just hide it, right? And just try to keep it together for an hour to do a podcast. But I've just always been an honesty is the best policy person in my life. That's been a guiding principle for me. And I don't just say that like as a saying, like I have found that I get better results in life as far as sort of my interactions with people and both business wise and personally. And it's just that's how I am wired. That's how I want to be. I don't want to be a person that's, being deceitful or telling little lies here or there. So it's just, during that time, that was just what I needed to do was just be honest about what was going on, even though it was probably not not what a lot of people wanted to hear. They're looking for Xbox news, but hey, that's we're people too, as doing doing our work at IGN that we're so lucky to get to do, and we're people too. And that was just a thing I was going through, and I, whether you liked it or not, and obviously you kindly you responded to it, and it meant something to you, and I appreciate that. That's just how I had to do it.
No, it was one of the most powerful moments of any podcast I've ever heard. And we actually we got to be on a show with Mark Medina, who's on Unlocked every once in a while. Mm-hmm. And we were actually telling him, like, those are our favorite moments, when you guys get to be a little more transparent with who you are on the shows, instead of it just being about the game. So yeah, thank you so much. So today's story that we're going to be telling, and so for Ryan, who's never been on the show or maybe heard it, here's how it works. I come up with an idea of a story, something I'd love to hear from everybody, and I give you an example to give you time to think about it. So the story we're going to tell is your best sports memory as a fan, as someone partaking of the sport. And so my best sports memory, and I actually was talking to Donnie and Dev about this a while ago, was in 1990, when I got to go with my foster family to watch the Bulls play the Blazers in Chicago. And this was a regular season game. And I watched this young Clyde Drexler just giving it to Jordan. And I watched Jerome Kersey rise up and slam this thunderous dunk down. And Uncle Cliff Robinson burying a three. And I was like, these Blazers are spicy, man. I'm telling you, these guys are something else. And my family's like, we're Bulls fans? Like, I don't know why you're cheering. I'm like, you guys know I'm Chicago through and through. My Cubs, my Bears, the Blackhawks, and the Bulls. And I remember as the game went on, I was so in love with the way this Blazer team played. And I remember Terry Porter came up the floor. He did a hezzy to a two-step, jumped and pulled. And I remember going, oh, that is a bad man. Bad man. And so we leave. I believe it was around Christmas time. I'm in like December. And the Blazers end up winning by like 10. And we're walking. And I'm like, man, that Blazer team there's something else. And finally, my sister goes, if you like them so much, be a Blazer fan. I go, maybe I will. And over the next month, I became a Blazer fan. Like, I made the switch. I told my whole family, and I was like, Rip City till I die. Let's go. And then the Bulls won a championship. And then the next year they won a championship against the Blazers. It became really tough, but the memories I have from going to that game and watching the Blazers win, it's one of those where I've never switched teams since, and I don't think I ever will. Yeah. But the switch from Bulls to Blazers happened because Clyde Drexler was magic with a basketball, and Terry Porter was a special point guard. And the fact that they were good enough to make it to the finals and be in the playoff run every year for a couple of years really showed how special that team was. And that's my favorite sports memory as a fan.
So was that the first NBA game you'd ever attended in person, or had you been to games before?
I've been to a couple Bulls games before then. I actually went to like 4 or 5 the year Jordan would have been 89, 88. And then the next year when they got Scotty, I think it was Scotty was the next year. And I got to go to 2 when they had Scotty. But I was really little and didn't remember him.
I'm so jealous that you got to see Jordan play in person. I never got the opportunity. Not to cut you off, but just to kind of on that point, it's like I am from New Jersey originally. Really only the Mets. That was my sport as a kid. I hadn't really discovered basketball or football or any hockey yet. So, but when our whole family moved out to Arizona, and at the time, the Phoenix Suns were the only pro game in town. The Cardinals came like the year after we moved there, but they were, of course, if you guys remember, if you're old enough to remember, the Cardinals used to be the laughingstock of the NFL, like just the absolute. They had the worst owner. They played in the worst stadium, Sun Devil Stadium, the college stadium, where in the beginning of the season there were metal bleachers, and it would be 100 degrees in September. and it would just you just roast. So they were. I didn't get into football for quite a while, but the Suns were it, man. And but of course the East only plays the West twice a year, once on each home floor. So and the Suns were always good. So I never got to see I never got to see Jordan play because the Bulls would only come once, and it was a tough enough ticket without Jordan coming to town once. So I'm jealous for sure.
Yeah, we moved. We lived on the north side, maybe 2 blocks from Wrigley. We lived in one of the little stone doors over there, and so we were literally like, you could get to Wrigley and Soldier Field pretty easily. Like those are pretty easy, and it was a little bit tougher to get over to where the Bulls played. And then we moved in '93 to Portland, Oregon, which was just fate because I was already a Rip City fan.
Yeah.
And so I remember like the first time we went to watch a game in Portland, it wasn't the Memorial Coliseum. May have been the worst comparison because that stadium was so busted. It was so bad. But I just remember like the first time I watched the Blazers play on their home court, I was like, this is not the same atmosphere that I had with the Bulls. I'm going to keep cheering. But yeah, so Dev, favorite sports memory as a fan?
My favorite sports memory probably has to be the 2000 Lakers championship. Me and my boy Doug, we would go because they would actually host the away games in the Staples Center. So you could go to the Staples Center and watch the away games on the Jumbotron or whatnot that they had there. And just the atmosphere was just electric and awesome. And we went to every single one of those games. We took his son with us to the games, and it was just so much fun. Just watching the Lakers finally get this championship, watching them just beat up on the Pacers or whatnot. It was just so much fun. And me and my boy Doug, like we just have been diehard Laker fans. We went through the Dale Harris era, which was just like, you got 4 All-Stars and you can't figure it out. Then them trading away my boy Eddie for Glenn Rice, who forgot how to play basketball once he became a Laker, like just couldn't dribble to save his life.
Eddie Jones was cold though, man.
Yes, he was, and I'm still hurt off that trade. I'm still sad about that. But just coming up in LA, being a Lakers fan, being able to see Magic before Showtime died out, and then going through the dark ages of the Sedale Threatt era and Cedric Ceballos and George Lynch.
Don't be hating on the Iceman.
Oh, I love Cedric.
On Cedric.
I love Cedric.
Good.
But I have a Cedric Ceballos jersey still to this day. But just going through like that era and then finally making it back, coming off the air balls that Kobe shot against Utah to put us out, and then boom, it's time, we get our championship, and then just being able to be in that atmosphere and be around it, and just it was awesome. It was just so much fun to be a part of that, and I'll never forget it. I mean, it was just great. Also being able to be there with like his son. So that's another memory that we all share together. And it was just an electric time. It was a lot of fun. It was great. And I'll never forget that. It was so much fun.
I love how your memory involves one of the hardest ones I've had as a fan, because that was the year they beat my Pippen-led Portland Trailblazers after we were up. I believe we were up 2 games, and we squandered that. Oh, tough times. Ryan, favorite sports memory as a fan?
Gosh, boy, you guys are jogging up a ton of great memories. Now, you got to remember, so I'm originally from New Jersey, grew up a Mets fan, like I said, but really kind of, we moved to Arizona, not just my family, but like our whole extended family, kind of everybody left New Jersey, out to Arizona. And when I was in, was that 2nd or 3rd grade. So really, like, I was dyed in the wool Arizona sports. We got the Diamondbacks in the franchise. The expansion team was awarded in '95. I had a Diamondbacks hat right then and wore it for 2 years until they actually played a game. And the Suns were beloved. The Cotton Fitzsimmons Suns, the KJ Chambers Suns, and then Barkley comes to town. And the year that John Paxson shot beat us in the '93 finals, we actually had there was a parade for the Suns, even though they lost Like just how that's how,
Wow.
because Phoenix had never won a pro sports championship. Again, at that point, it was just the Suns and then the hapless Arizona Cardinals. The Coyotes hadn't moved down from Winnipeg, the Winnipeg Jets, and the Diamondbacks weren't around yet. But hey, you guys are bringing back all kinds of memories, and it's like I'm thinking here, and it's like, well, I got to be at the first ever Diamondbacks game, the first ever regular season game, which we had at the time it was called Bank One Ballpark, the first ever retractable roof with natural grass, and just this beautiful new stadium. And I was also at game 1 of the World Series in '01, one of the greatest World Series of our lifetimes. But, just thinking more about it as you guys are talking, I would have to say my best sports memory is the first ever Major League Baseball game I attended. Because for me, it's baseball's up here and every other sport is just, not that they're low, but it's just that's how high up baseball is. I'm a baseball guy through and through. And the first time I ever went to a game, and you have to remember, so I'm 39. And in fact, so I wish, let me see here. Let me see if I can pull this off the wall real quick.
This is perfect OT-ness. It's like he knows what to do.
Right.
There we go. All right, hang on a second.
Oh, wow.
I know this is great podcasting right now for your audio listeners.
This is actually the norm for us. So
you're
pretty much following suit.
So actually, I'll get to this in a second, but 1990, I'm 9 years old, hadn't turned 10 yet. And I'd been getting into baseball on my own because my dad actually was never really a big sports guy, but my uncle Tony, who lived not too far away, he was like a Mets fan from when the Mets were an expansion team when he was a kid. The Mets came around in '62 after Brooklyn and New York leave for California, the Giants and the Dodgers. And so anyway, it's my Uncle Tony, and that takes me to my first ever Major League Baseball game, Shea Stadium in New York. And you got to remember that the reason I'm saying 1990 is there's no HD TV. We're on our 4x3 CRT.
Yep.
You guys remember what television looked like? It was so to go to a game after having watched countless games on old television on non-HD TV, when you see the real thing with your own eyes, it's just incredible. I remember just walking up to the stadium and just how huge it was, and then going in and walking through the concourse and just kind of the sounds of it. But I have this vivid memory of before we went to our seats, like we get in, we come into the stadium, we kind of make our way up. The seats were on the middle level, not the field level, not the upper deck, kind of that middle level that they had at Shea. And I just remember we walked out, and we were fairly, like, at that point behind home plate. We hadn't walked around to our seats yet. Just walking out of the tunnel, because remember, stadiums then, unlike now, you can kind of see the field from anywhere in the concourse you're walking. But it didn't used to be that way. It used to be the just pretty closed in concourse, and then you'd have the tunnels out to the seating area. So you walk out the seating area, and this is it's a night game, but it's still daylight out because it's summer, and it's we're there at 6 o'clock, whatever it is, for a 7 o'clock game, and just walking out and seeing a Major League Baseball field with my own eyes for the first time in the stadium. And it sounds cliche, but like how green the grass is and just the scoreboard, that was just such a tremendous sight for me. It had such a vivid impact. And then we go to our seats, game starts, and this is he's past the peak of his powers, but this is a still pretty good Doc Gooden pitching that night.
Okay.
That's Darryl Strawberry. This was a real good Mets team. This was they didn't end up winning. I don't think they ended up going to the playoffs that year, but they were in first place for most of the season, including the night we were there. And so Dwight Gooden pitches, Strawberry's in the lineup, and they're playing the Cardinals, the St. Louis Cardinals. And I just remember, so the Mets end up winning 6-0. Gooden pitches lights out, 7 shutout innings. He doesn't have the high 90s fastball anymore by that point. The shoulder is giving him some problems, but he pitches well enough, throws a great game. And the ultimate highlight of that, besides the fact that the Mets, I go and see the stadium and the Mets win, but there was a journeyman catcher who is really only remembered historically for one, and he's not even really that remembered. I say that with all due respect, but Mackie Sasser was the name of this Mets catcher in that time. And Mackie Sasser ended up having one of those guys, there have been a few over the course of baseball history where he had the yips. He couldn't throw the ball back to the pitcher. I know that. I think that was depicted in was that Major League One or Major League Two? One. Okay.
I say it was one.
No,
Thank you,
it would have been 2. It was
two?
the big guy from like Nebraska who looked like a linebacker.
Oh, that's right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that was like that actually happened. You don't hear about it anymore. I guess I don't know if we've just like we've got sports psychology to make sure guys can get shaken out of that or what. But Mackie Sasser actually had suffered from that mental block, but not at this point. At this point, he's catching for the Mets. And anyway, the reason I'm bringing him up is because the Mets are up 2-0. Dwight Gooden's pitching well. And again, I'm a 9-year-old kid at my first ever game, just taking in all these sights and sounds of the sport that I've loved. And Sasser comes up with the bases loaded, and he hits a grand slam home run. And I tell you, Shea Stadium, and again, older state, you could feel like the stadium shake just a little bit. Like it was the eruption. I mean, this is back to not only the Mets were good, but they were full every night. You know, it was 40,000+ fans every night. So this Sasser hits a grand slam right down the right field line. We were kind of sitting, like I said, that middle deck, just off to the third base side a little bit, but still on the infield. And I just remember seeing this ball off his bat, just going right, this laser down the line. It goes over the fence, and just the Shea Stadium just erupts, and it's just this insane thing. And we're just flipping out, 6-0 Mets, and then the Mets cruise from there. And it was just such an incredible first ever live baseball moment for me, and one of the best gifts I've ever received in my life. My Uncle Tony had the foresight, and I thank him to this day. I bring it up sometimes because I guess this year this will be the 30th anniversary of this game, because it was 1990, right? Yeah. So, but for Christmas that year, we'd gone to this game and it was amazing. It was either my birthday or Christmas. I opened my gift from him, and it's this. He had let's see if that can see that.
Oh,
so
man, yeah.
he had saved, he'd saved the box score and the newspaper write-up from the game, and he said he had a friend of his do up this like nice little Ryan's first Mets game thing, and had this whole thing framed. This has been on my wall ever since. And I still look at this sometimes, and I read the story. The doctor is in again. Dwight Gooden, his shoulder stiffness of this past week, clearly history, returned Sunday night after a 2-day hiatus and helped pitch the Mets to a 6-0 victory over St. Louis before 41,946 at Shea Stadium. Gooden allowed 6 hits, struck out 4, and walked 1 in 7 innings to win his 8th consecutive game in 9 starts. He also preserved the Mets' 1-game lead atop the NL East over Pittsburgh. Blah, blah, blah. Catcher Mackie Sasser delivered most of the offense to which Gooden is becoming accustomed with his first career grand slam, which broke open the game in the 5th. So I still look at this frame, this picture. I still love it, and I'm so happy to have that memory preserved. In fact, it's funny that we're now talking about this, because just by sheer coincidence, very recently, like during this quarantine, sometime in the last couple of weeks, I actually had the thought, I was looking at this on the wall, and I thought, well, wait a second, everything's on the internet now. Maybe this game, somebody has uploaded like a VHS tape of it somehow. Maybe it's online somewhere. So I went looking for it on YouTube, and I didn't find the whole game, but I found like an ESPN highlights package from around baseball that night that had the highlights of this game. And I found just like I guess it must have been a New York, I don't know, maybe a local broadcast, the highlights of it. So I watched back the Mackey Sasser Grand Slam for the first time in like 30 years. So
That's awesome.
That's awesome. That is so cool.
Donnie,
Sports
how about
are
you,
awesome.
man?
Sports are awesome.
So Ryan shared that he likes an underdog, and I come from the land of lovable losers. By Cleveland, by Columbus. I'm an Ohio sports fan, and I mean, I'm going to tell you my favorite moment as a fan was the Cavs championship, but I'm going to give you an abridged version as to why. 1990s, like 95, 94, I'm like 7 years old. I'm just kind of coming into, awareness of sports and really understanding like how they're played. And I think that's for a lot of people. I mean, as Ryan just shared, it's a tremendous story. It's where you grow an attachment and affinity because, you're a kid. You just have pure joy, like you're not wrapped up in free agency and numbers and contracts and any of that extra stuff that you learn later and as an adult. And coming from, or at least from where I'm from, like it's communal. Everybody loves the teams. Nobody likes the other teams. Nobody would ever condone Coach Mo adopting another team. Like these are things you just don't do.
It wasn't. It was more like
Nope.
a dare.
Nope.
They were like, "You wouldn't leave our Bulls," and I was like, I'm gonna do it.
I'm jealous of that because as an Arizona sports fan, like I'll be the first to admit, by and large, Arizona sports fans they're crappy fans
right.
in the sense that everybody in Arizona has transplanted there from somewhere else. I came from New Jersey. Like there aren't even now, like the generation coming up, it's still like the Diamondbacks struggle. Like anytime the Cubs come to town, I know that a lot of teams can claim that the Cub fans invade, but Dodgers, Cubs, like you see it's rough with Arizona sports. So I actually like, I envy you as in that sense, as an Ohio sports fan that everyone is all loyal.
I mean, I feel personally, and I'm not saying this just because I am a fan, although biased aside, I feel like I'm a part of the greatest fan base in the world. I think it's shown or almost been proven many, many times over. I mean, we lose complete entire seasons. We go winless. We still sell out. We still show up. We put a Browns player on the cover of Madden the year they opened up for fan voting. Like, of all the things for the Browns to do, it's like the fans
cover. Oh my god!
The fans,
was that Peyton Hillis?
It was Peyton Hillis.
Yes.
Oh gosh, Peyton Hillis.
We are. I think. I don't know. I think we're very. I was telling Dev on our DLC episode in growing up there, especially in the 90s when it wasn't like today. It's kind of fancy and it's kind of trendy, and Cleveland's kind of a cool town. It wasn't when I grew up there. It was like distraught and old and broken.
Oh, the Mistake by the Lake.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think when you're there and you're in that environment, like the fans, the sports teams are one of the few things that everybody can get behind. It's not like a great place to grow up. It's not a great place to live. It doesn't have good weather. It doesn't have very good like prospects. Like you're not like, I'm going to make a killing here in Ohio, like most people leave. So it's just kind of, I mean, I think a lot of people ride or die with them. And coming up, so much of my sports allegiances are tied to heartbreak. Absolute, complete, and utter heartbreak. I live in Georgia now, as you guys know, and most of my family is from Georgia. And the year that the Indians played the Braves, I had to root against the majority of my family, who were teasing me constantly.
95, right?
Yeah, and I was in tears.
That was the one Braves World Series all those division titles. The only one that they actually won
was against whose team? My team. Just like the Cubs, whose entire curse has been historic.
Yep.
Who did they beat? My team. The
Y'all are
Marlins.
great at losing. So good at
the
that.
team that like should never win a World Series. The Marlins. They hit a blooper in the 9th when we're up. Like that was it. That was our moment. Loss. And these are all moments of complete and utter heartbreak. The 95 Ohio State Buckeyes, best team in the country. We destroyed Washington. We destroyed Notre Dame. We were going to the national title. I was so in it that year. I went to my first Buckeyes game that year. I was so excited. Jersey and everything. Tim Biakabatuka, like, is a name that strikes fear to me to this day. He ran for 300 yards on a terrible Michigan team our one and utter rival, and we lose our chance to go to the national title. So we lose to like this 5-7 Michigan loser team the last game of the year. So like it's so funny because like my kids, I think, have adopted the Ohio State fandom. I don't push it on them. I just think they kind of adopted it through me. And they don't know what it's like to lose to Michigan. We've dominated them for so long. They're like, psh, these guys suck. And they'll even bring it up. Like they tempt fate. They're like, we should let them win one year. I'm like, no. What are you talking about? Like I am enjoying.
Never let them back in. Never.
I was like, I hope they lose every game for the rest of their lives because I only know that heartbreak as a kid where we never beat Michigan ever for like a decade. So you fast forward through all of that. LeBron happens. I was always a huge Cavs fan, even in the early 90s. I went to Cavs games back when they were not very good in the mid-90s. LeBron comes, like I think the entire city gets hope. And I mean, the story's already been written. LeBron leaves. Just like the Browns left, like the owner pulled the Browns, like it's just the lovable losers. Like we always lose constantly. So my favorite moment as a fan, I think, was the day that LeBron announced that he was coming back. I remember exactly where I was. I was at the place where I work now, and I was literally in tears. I think I took a photo and like shared it because I had my phone exploding off the hook. They're like, oh my God, Tony, like this cannot be possible. He's going to Cleveland. And it honestly felt like if we had never won anything, it felt like we had already won something. Just the fact that he came back and kind of showed his relevance. So to make my story a little shorter, you fast forward to the Cavs title. After, I've always said this, we should have won the first one. We were the better team. We just had half a roster. And to come back and win. And I have the distinction. I have witnesses and proof. I have the distinction of calling my shot, which I will bring up for the rest of my life because we were down 3-1. The world is writing us off. And I told my GIS team who love basketball, we always watch March Madness in the Emergency Operations Center together. And that's how we use all of the screens in the restaurant in March. We turn on all of the March Madness. I told them they're down 3-1 and I show up the next day with my Cavs hoodie on and they're like, you're toast. And I'm like, you don't understand. This is how this has to happen. Like this, I had undoubted belief and it's just maybe just fan optimism. I don't know. But if you had asked me that day, the day after we go down the game 4, I would have told you we're winning this thing. I don't know what it was. I just felt it. And it was crazy because I was a huge radio fan and I always listened to my hometown sports radio stations. I think it was something that we were all feeling. It was just like this collective belief. It's like after everything that has happened, it can't just be easy. Like it can't just be we go 4-1. We can't just, after all of these heartbreaks, it has to be historic. And they kept saying it. And I think the general manager of the team released a letter that he wrote to the team. He was like, this is Cleveland. This is how we do things. And we did it. And the fact that we did it, because of my upbringing, I didn't watch the final game. I couldn't. I was just like, no,
really?
I just turned it off. I was like watching game 6 almost like made my heart explode. Like I was just like, I was just on pins and needles the whole time. So my wife was like, just stop. So I turned it off. We watched a movie and she was like, don't look at your phone. I turned my phone off because I was like, I can't.
What?
I could never do that. I could never do that.
I celebrated every Cubs win and every Cubs loss.
The only thing that I can tell you
is
is like with everything on the line after the 15 years that had predated it, it's a different feeling. You're like, oh no, what if it, what if this is what has always been? Do you want to see that again? What if it's another Jose Mesa? What if Steph gets the ball and drills that 3 in Kevin Love's face and that's it? You just have complete and utter heartbreak. It's just like, I didn't feel like I could take it. So I'm sitting there at home. I've turned my phone off. I'm trying to relax. My wife can tell. She's like, don't look at your phone. Don't do it. Don't look at your phone. So I sit there. We're up until about 1 a.m. and I turn my phone on and just a cascading amount of notifications and pings and emails and voicemails and alerts from the ESPN app. And that was my favorite moment as a fan because I didn't sleep that night. I called into Cleveland radio. My friends were calling me at 3 a.m. My boss called me. My boss was like, so I guess you're going to Cleveland? because I was going home for the parade. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe this actually happened. I stayed up all night long. I went to our local cigar shop. I got a great cigar. I got a big ass piece of steak, and I made like a tremendous dinner the next day, and I just basked in it. I rewatched the game, and I've done everything since then. But there was nothing like that feeling for me that night to just kind of sit in it.
I was going to never have it again.
I was going to ask you if your favorite 3 words in the English language are "blocked by James," but you didn't see it.
Oh my goodness, yeah. Oh my goodness.
I couldn't. I just I can't even explain to you. I don't know if it's just not willing to see it again, or just I don't know.
Yeah, I have a friend who has that same problem. Like, he's a San Antonio Spurs fan, but he can't watch the games.
I watched the games. I just didn't watch that one.
He won't watch them live ever. He always watches the replay. Like, it's so bizarre to me.
Crazy. Yeah. Wow. All right.
I can. I'll tell you. For whatever little it's worth, Donnie. I was pulling hard for Cleveland there, because even though they were playing the Warriors, I mean, I'm a Suns fan. I don't have any problem with the Warriors. I respect that they had a heck of a run there.
Tremendous team.
But yeah, it's just we talked about it off the air before we came on. I've psychoanalyzed myself to the point that I understand now that I am historically drawn to underdogs, sporting and otherwise. And so the Bay Area didn't need another damn championship.
Well, if they win that one, they go down seriously in history as the greatest team to ever play.
Yeah.
That's the one thing that keeps them away from it. It's the fact that they lost.
And so, like, I've never even been to Cleveland, but just I've obviously the story of Cleveland and Ohio sports is well documented. So I was pulling for you guys. I was pulling for I was definitely pulling for the Cubs in 2016 too, even though the Indians have suffered for a while as well. But everybody wanted to see the Cubs break their curse.
We beat you if we don't get that rain delay. We win that game.
That's 100% factual.
I was so sad that the Indians lost. Oh my God.
That
sucked.
I can only tell you that I didn't watch it, I think, because of like growing up a Cleveland fan. Like, there are movies that make fun of our heartbreak. You guys mentioned like Major League, and we have Draft Day, and there's Believe Land. Like, that's a part of it.
Amazing movie. You need to stop right now. I love Draft Day.
So like, you get a sense you do kind of feel cursed, and people talk about it and they make fun of it, and it's just like, not again, like how? And and people tell me all the time, just root for another team, and it's like, you don't do that. You don't understand how woven into it is. Like, there's no way I couldn't. Like, I would just stop watching sports. And instead of trying to watch another team, I would just quit sports altogether.
Yeah, I mean, real sports fans don't change allegiances either. Although I know I'm speaking right against.
Again, I was 7 at the time.
Were you even really a Bulls fan, though? Is the question.
I'll say it this way. Real adult sports fan. Kids see.
Thank you. That's better.
See, kids see like a cool guy on TV and like, yes, I'm going to follow that dude, that team. But as an adult, once it's baked into you, if a real sports fan doesn't just change that. Like, I mean, I know I'm talking about the Mets, the Diamondbacks, and I'm wearing an A's hat. But that's, I was telling you guys off the air. I'll say it on the air. It's like, I got to this point where I've now lived in the Bay Area longer than I've lived in Arizona or in New Jersey. And I got to this point where it's like, well, I want to be a part of the local sports community somehow. And it's like, and I can't root for the Giants ever. They're a division rival of the Diamondbacks. I also I sports hate the Giants to this day, not just because of the division rivalry, but because I sports loathed Barry Bonds. I thought he was a selfish player. I thought he was I didn't think he respected the game with the way he treated his teammates and had the Barca Lounger corner of the locker room where everybody else has a regular locker. But I got to this point where it's like, I want to be part of this. I want to root for somebody local. So the A's are like the total underdog of, I mean, they've been successful in recent years despite the lack of payroll. They're like the scrappy underdog. So, it's just like sports you can't quit your team. You know,
No.
you can't quit your team. It's just not how it works.
It's one of those things that, as I tell my students, I'm like, it's okay to fall in love with a player. Like it is. I have a lot of students who love LeBron. I'm like, that's great. That's okay. He's a special athlete. But you need to understand that when you keep flipping teams, it takes away that commitment to something, and you need that. You need that as you develop.
That's why I'm not a fan of him being a Laker, honestly. I love LeBron, but him coming to my Lakers, I was just like,
Well, he was about to get you a ring, so I bet you might want to chill with that. So.
Nah.
It won't mean anything to those fans. Anything,
honestly, it's like, okay,
that's true.
Yeah, whatever.
That's true. I mean, that's true. That is not going to matter anywhere near in the storied history of the Lakers. Mm-hmm. If this season comes back and if the Lakers do take the title, it's not going to hold a candle to any of the Kobe or Kobe Shaq championships.
Nope. At all. Always be a wannabe. Always be a pose.
Yeah, pretty much.
They'll never adopt them.
That's sad. Well, we have 5 questions from the students that we're going to get to real quick. So here we go. Our first one's going to come from Margot, who asks, what is your biggest strength as a gamer? What is the thing that you can do better than most?
Nothing.
So
I can buy more games than most people.
For me, I want to say in Madden, I've won a lot of tournaments. I've done pretty well for myself playing online competitively. The thing that I do really well is I make people play the way that I play. I slow the clock down to an absolute crawl and force you to beat me through the air because that's where the interceptions come from. And you have a higher percentage of picking the ball off than you do causing fumbles. And so I force people to play the way I want them to play. So that would be the one thing I think that I do better than most. Dev, how about you, bud?
Not finished games. That's probably my biggest strength.
That's good.
You are gifted.
I mean, I have so many games that I've started and just never finished, either because I didn't want the game to end because I was enjoying being in that world, or life happened in some way that I just never got back to it and finished it. That is probably my biggest strength. My unfinished game and backlog history. It's great.
Ryan, what's the biggest strength in gaming?
Well, I would say you cannot beat me in a swords only match of Halo 2.
Okay.
That was okay. Now at Halo 5, it's a whole different story. It's my skills have atrophied, but man, I could still hold my own. Like if we fired up Master Chief Collection, Halo 2 was always my jam, and specifically swords only matches on Halo 2. I just had the timing down and the angles down. Man, that's probably about the only claim to fame I have left as far as gaming skills. Like my job necessitates, and believe me, I'm not complaining here at all. I'm so grateful to get to do what I do. But by nature, we have to be jack of all trades, master of none, right? Because we have to be up on everything. But Halo 2, that was if I could go back in time to any period of my gaming life, it would be fall 2004 when Halo 2 came out and Xbox Live was blowing up, and it's like that era, man, that was the Halo 2 era those were some fond memories right there.
Nice. Our next question comes from Jackie, who asks, what has been the biggest change to your fitness plans since the quarantine started? So Dev, will go to you first.
What fitness plans?
Yeah, what plans?
There's fitness plans? We have those?
Yep. All right.
That's the thing? You sure?
Well, yeah, okay. Donnie, we'll go to you next.
I saw a thing trending around on Twitter that there's this fitness app on Oculus Quest that comes with like a subscription. I don't remember what it's called, and I can't turn my phone on to find out, but I did subscribe to it. They're supposed to send me like a visor thing. I've been telling the wife, like, we've got to do something, because I've been grounded at home. Like, we really haven't left the house in like 2 months, and I've already like ballooned in weight, just because it's easy to like sit around and snack and stuff like that. And I was telling her yesterday, I was like, we've got to do something. We can't just keep sitting here, just eating and hanging out on our laptops on the couch doing work all day. It's very like sedentary. We're just hanging out. So I'm going to start doing something, but I can't claim that I've been doing anything.
Okay. Ryan, how about you?
I've been trying to do, so I've always been grateful. The dog Daisy, who's like, can't see her, she's off camera, she's laying down in her crate over there, but she always she gets me out. That's all I get to do as far as getting out of the house is walking her twice a day. But I've been doing 100 push-ups a day just to try and like get just work something. So
Sure.
That's been something I've been committing to during this.
One round or space through?
4 sets of 25.
Okay. Nice. So I've actually lost weight during the quarantine. I have Bear and Daisy, our dogs, and they're both over 70 pounds. They're pretty big, and they pull some force. And so I've taken to walking them together.
Nice.
So we bought one of those leashes that splits into two. And I'm telling you, like, I just sit there and do the time under tension for my forearm and just hold it while they're pulling. And that is some sauce right there. But the biggest thing that's been the change, because I'm still lifting weights and doing that stuff, and I have the pool, of course. But the biggest thing was Alana Pierce talked about this game called Beat Saber.
Oh, yeah.
And doing it on the hard level. Now, I'd played Beat Saber a couple times, but I'd never really messed with it more than that. So we kicked it up to the hard level, and I'm talking, I was sweating.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I was like, what is this magical device here? And that's on the PSVR. And so every night, my wife normally goes up to bed with our daughter around 9:30. 9:30, I kick that thing on, I move the table, and I kick it up to hard, and then I don't remember what the next difficulty I was at, and I just keep trying to beat the scores, and I'm just drenched in sweat after 30 minutes. And I'm like, okay, Beat Saber and me are about to lose these pounds, and it's been crazy. It's been really fun.
So if you like that, you should try Box VR and Pistol Whip. They're both kind of in the same vein, but they give you a little variety there.
Well, I've been playing a lot of the Everybody's Golf in VR. That's a good time. It's not as good. Do you remember the one that I told you about that was on the PS3, the Tiger's Wood 11 on the PlayStation Move? Best golf game I've ever played because of how great the Move worked with it. And I just hit a table. Sorry. Great radio there. All right, our next question comes from Trish, who says, if you could, would you add or take a day away during the quarantine? So, Dev, would you add a day, so making it an 8-day week, because you want more time? Or would you take a day away? Because it's been just crazy being locked inside.
What does that mean?
That's
so
because if you have an 8-day week, it's still just a total of 8 days. If you have a 6-day week, I'm very confused.
I think what she means is like, would you want an extra 24 hours to use to work on things during this quarantine where you're stuck at home? Or are you going so crazy you want to take 24 hours away?
Oh, okay. I got it.
I guess I would add because I'm not going crazy at all. I feel like as a gamer, I've been set for this my whole life. I have no problem being at home and not going anywhere. Like I have my 2 kids, they're 4 and 8, so we get outside and we're riding bikes and we're playing and we're doing stuff. I do pretty much the grocery shopping if it has to be done, but I have no problem not leaving my house. I am totally good. Me and the wife we're both like, we straight. We don't need to go anywhere. So we could add an extra 24 hours for me to do other stuff. That's fine with me.
Okay. Ryan, add a day or take it away.
Do I have to work on the extra day?
I'm guessing the added day would be used however you wanted to, and the day you're taking away would be like a work day.
All right, then if I could get an extra day off, that would be great. Because it's like I'm lucky to. I'm very fortunate to be able to keep doing what I'm doing, and I've still employed, still able to keep the roof over our heads. So I'm super grateful for that. But it is, you end up kind of in front of the computer all day. So I could definitely use an extra day of the week to just be in front of the computer less. And even if I'm just around the house, be not quite as chained to it. So I would take the extra 24 hours for sure.
Boss man Reese?
I would say kind of like Dev. My folks at work, my boss he's stationed me at home like 2 months ago, so we really haven't left at all. And I, like Ryan, I am very lucky that most of my work is online, so I can do a lot of my coding and things remotely. So that works for me. But we have conference calls every day at 12 and every day at 4. So I jump on those, and everybody always makes fun of me because like I'm sure you guys are probably doing the same thing if you guys are doing Zoom calls. I think a lot of the world is starting to like wake up to like the tools that it needs to truly be remote, because everybody's got like little webcam and netbook webcams. They look bad. They don't they're not they don't look good. They don't sound good. Their stuff's going in and out. And everybody looks at me and I have like crystal clear video. I have a beautiful microphone and nice headsets. They're like, geez, Donnie. Like I even have a green screen. I put my green screen out last week, and I took a picture of my desk at the office, and I put it behind me. And I just came in, and they're like, "Donnie, are you here?" And they're because I'm just very, very equipped to do this. So kind of like Dev, like I could keep doing it, but also kind of like Ryan, like I don't know if crazy is the right word. It's just like it stops feeling like stops feeling like almost real. Like I haven't really went outside in a long time. I'm like, what's really going on out there? Like I haven't been out there. I haven't seen much. It's just me and the kids. So I'm starting to feel that itch of like I just kind of want to go anywhere.
I would add only if the caveat was that it would allow me to just work on cars. Like, so if it was like you get these 24 hours, but I get to be in the garage working on the D150 or working on the Drift Mustang that I've been building, which I actually got to go use the track last week. So next time we do a show, we'll talk about that. That thing is hauling. It is so much fun. But that would be my only caveat. Like if I had to use it to like be at home, I'd rather just lose a day. But if I could just be working in the garage, I'd take that. Our last two questions coming from our favorite person, Miss Shy, who's a senior this year. Congratulations, kid. Enjoy your graduation.
Yeah, I was going to say.
So the first one she has is, what was your favorite quarantine activity? So what's the thing that you've done during this quarantine that you're like, dude, that was awesome. Like, I'm glad I got to experience that. For me, it was teaching PE online is fun. Like, my kids are making some of the coolest videos of them working out at home. I had a student, she flipped a coffee table over, filled it with books, and is doing bench press. And she took a video of it. I've never laughed harder. She's like, I'm getting the gains, coach. Let's go. I was dying. I was like, that's my freaking kid. That's been such a blessing. That's not something I would have ever gotten to experience. So that would be my favorite quarantine activity, is grading these sweet PE projects that I'm getting turned in online. Dev, how about you? Anything you got for me?
I'm trying to think. Like, I feel like we haven't done anything different.
You're not teaching more?
The plants.
Okay. Did some yard work. Got some plants. I'm trying to reorganize my garage and turn that into more of a play space for the kids. But other than that, like for us, a lot of it is just business as usual. You know, like I'm set up in here to do all the stuff without an issue. My wife is a teacher, so like she's able to lesson plan and get the stuff for the kids. So like nothing has really changed other than the fact that we just don't leave the house. So, okay. Ryan, how about you, bud?
I will say I don't have a great answer for this. I would say just being able to hang with Daisy, hang with the dog all day. Like that's good. Or instead of having to leave her for 8 hours a day, it is nice that she's always around, and I can always just go over and sit with her on the couch for a few minutes during the course of the day, or even while I'm on like a conference call or something. So, I would say dog time is the best.
Our oldest dog, she's getting close to 10 now. Her name's Daisy as well. This is like the first time she's ever gotten to have mom and dad at home all day long for like extended periods of time. Yeah. And I don't think I've ever seen her happier. Like she doesn't have to be alone with the other dogs. She just gets to hang out with us, and it's been really good for her. So
that's great.
Boss man done.
The Corona Games, which is a program that my wife and I have set up to keep our kids gainfully entertained and active. And every day we set aside an hour, typically like right after lunch, and we have them go through the Corona Games. And it's been a collection of things. We've had a spelling contest, we've had math times tables, we've had capital things, we've made them actually race, we had them do a Nerf gun contest, we had a paper airplane thing, we've had drawing contests, we've had all kinds of little activities that we do, and we've been keeping a daily total over who's in the lead the whole time, with some promise of some surprise. So every day we're doing the Corona Games, and we're pitting our two kids against each other to see who is the greatest.
Nice.
I really am a fan of that.
With Victoria being uber competitive,
Victoria's got to be in the lead.
She is in the
Long
lead.
shot.
She is in the lead, and when she loses, it's always somebody else's fault. She just starts throwing out. She's got that LeBron factor, man. She gets that face, and she starts pleading to the refs, all kinds of stuff like that.
And our last question, this one's just her being her. When are we going to do another show? The answer is we have no idea. This was when Donnie said, "Hey, Ryan would be interested in doing an OT with you guys." We were like, "Yes, we will do that. He is amazing." And we don't know when we'll do it again. So it could be tomorrow. It could be March 2021. Just good luck. Stay strong. We'll let you know.
Well, as I told Ryan and as I told you, I was really upset. I wanted Mo to be on the Empire show. But knowing what we were talking about with Ryan and we have scripted out notes, I was like, we were going to be pressed for time, like with Nathan and me and trying to get Ryan through. I was like, ugh. And Ryan, I know I wanted to be very respectful of your time. You're so happy. I'm so happy you decided to come on our show. I was just like, I don't want to push it. I don't want to make it longer. But
you asked him the most important question, which still we have not found out. Where are the missing 114 Unlocked episodes? Because I actually became a fan of Unlocked it was when the Xbox One launched. That was my first podcast experience, was listening to Unlocked. And I actually wrote in a question and stumped the whole crew of Marty Sleva and Naomi based on, it was the hard drives, like which one was the actual hard drive on the original Xbox or something like that. And I won. That was when you were allowed to give out games. I have Spartan Assault downloaded still on my Xbox, and I got the 1000 on it because I got it from you guys.
That's great.
But yeah, it was one of those things that was the only question we needed to hear, because I need to know where the missing episodes are because I want to hear them all.
I don't even know, because I don't think we've changed. I don't remember changing providers. We've used Libsyn
I think you guys
forever.
did, actually. As a long-time listener of NVC Beyond and Unlocked, I think there was a period, I know there was definitely a period where Beyond switched feeds or something happened. Because I remember they talked about it online. They're like, we're working on it. We're trying to get the old episodes over. And I know some of the NVC shows, some of the older ones have gone too, and the only reason I know that is Podcast allows you to download files. Like Pocket Cast allows you to download local files. So I have a few local saved NVCs that aren't available anymore. that I've backed up off my phone to Google Drive just to keep back to Wind Waker HD releases and Wii U impressions and things like that.
Well, I don't have them, unfortunately. So
it's just sorry, Mo.
I don't have any of my old all the old KOXM podcasts from my official Xbox magazine days. Those are all gone too, because Future, the parent company, the company I worked for that did OXM, they're technically still around, but they've since laid off pretty much everyone and shut all that stuff down. So it's I know a big part of my podcast history is apparently just vaporized.
It is interesting because we had the same thing happen. We moved from Libsyn to Podbean, and we lost our 90% of our first 50 shows. A lot of our shows went missing in that transition because we did the RSS import and it brought over the shows, but none of the audio. It's none of the files came over. So the shows are in the feed, but they don't work. So I essentially went back and started deleting the ones that didn't work. And it's very interesting because I was listening to The Ringer, which just got acquired by Spotify. I'm not sure how much you guys follow this. And one of the things that Bill Simmons said, that the reason that they were interested in buying them out is podcasting is a very unique bit of marketing, because the way that they were trying to explain it was video is evergreen. When you do a movie or a TV show, it's evergreen. It's always available. People will rewatch it. If they like it, they'll rewatch it. If they like an actor, they'll go back to it. They'll find it. It's never out of date. Whereas podcasts, apparently, by all of their millions and millions of listener data, apparently people in podcasts don't normally go backwards ever. It's always forward. But they said they're very loyal. When you have a podcast listener, they tend to stay there. So it's a very powerful marketing group, because you can always get impressions every week forward, but the backlog doesn't really hold value. It's not like a video library. If you're thinking of a multimedia company like WWE or ESPN, that video library isn't all that important. It's really how many people are listening to your show this week. That's they're at least on that side, on the monetizing side, that's what they're focused on.
And that's a great point for us to transition to who our show is brought for. We want to thank our great Patreon producer for Give Bill Cartwright the Ball. Giving Bill Cartwright the ball is one of the most important things that you can do in today's day and age. And we want to thank you, Bill Cartwright, for everything you did for the Chicago Bulls.
Good job, Mo.
Thank you. I had to make sure I got that in today. Oh, man. We were brought to you by Cheese the last time we did a show. So now it's Bill Cartwright. Um, now that I've thrown us off the rails, it's time for us to finish the show. So, Ryan, where can all the awesome people who listen to this find you?
You can follow me on Twitter at DMC_Ryan. If, of course, IGN, you know about Podcast Unlocked and everything I'm up to over there. And if you happen to be interested in the world of Tesla and the electric vehicles that they are fine purveyors of, I do a weekly Tesla podcast because that's a big passion and hobby of mine on the side. It's called Ride the Lightning. So if you just Google Ride the Lightning Tesla and maybe my name, you'll definitely find it.
And remember, his name is Ryan frickin' McCaffrey, and you'll be good to go. All right, Boss Man Don, where can they find you, man?
You can find me on all of the consoles that play Nintendo, Twitter, PlayStation, Xbox, Unified ID. I love that stuff. If you need more Xbox talk after you're done with Unlocked, we are recording State of the Xbox Empire next Tuesday with Jez Corden from Windows Central. Talk about this past event that we just had and talking about the looking forward to June and July as we celebrate Xbox 2020 all summer long.
And my dude Dev, where can they find you?
You can find me at Dat Ninja Dev pretty much everywhere. Check me out on the PlayStation Experience. Going to be recording that tomorrow, just talking about all the good Sony stuff, as well as the Game Tech podcast that we host here. We are building PCs for everybody, turn everybody into PC gamers. It's just a good time.
And you can find me at Coach Hulk on Twitter, where I basically talk about the Chicago Bears and Xbox. It's great. It's a really, really fun follow. I make fun of Dev and Donnie and basically everybody a little bit and tell lots of jokes because that's who I am. And you can find us in the Discord because I love being in there. I will respond if you at me. If you don't, I'll never see the message. I will have no idea you said anything. So make sure you put at here. That's my username on Discord. It's at here. So make sure you type at HERE. And then I will for sure see it, and it will only be me. Thank you so much for your help. And remember, we love you, and that's game over.